It slipped out like it was normal. We were cleaning up after dinner, just me and Kelly, stacking plates by the sink. I passed her a dish towel without thinking, and she smiled and said, "Thanks, Matt." Matt. I stood there for a second, holding the plate midair. She didn't catch it at first. She just kept wiping the counter like nothing happened. I didn't say anything. I didn't joke about it. I didn't laugh it off. I just put the plate down, wiped my hands, and said, "Who's Matt?" That's when she froze. Only for a second, blink and you miss it fast, but enough. She gave this awkward little laugh, too high and tight. "Geez, calm down," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Matt's from work. I was just texting him about a project earlier. Got the name stuck in my head, I guess." I nodded slowly. Right. The air between us felt heavier than it should have. Kelly forced a smile, grabbed another plate, and started drying it like it was the most important thing in the world. I didn't press her. I didn't need to. Because right then, standing in that kitchen we picked out together 3 years ago, I knew something was broken. I just didn't know how deep yet. The next few days were normal. Too normal. She kissed me goodbye every morning. Sent me, "Love you," text before bed. Laughed too hard at stupid jokes I made. But her phone was always face down now. She stayed later at work. Got weirdly defensive if I asked if she wanted to do something together. Little things. Things you don't notice unless you already know to look. A week later, it got worse. We were driving to her sister's birthday dinner, and Kelly kept checking her phone every 2 minutes, smiling at messages she didn't share. Finally, I said, "Something funny?" She shrugged. "Work group chat. Just dumb memes." I didn't answer. Just kept my hands locked on the steering wheel, knuckles tight. At the restaurant, she barely looked at me. She laughed at everybody else's stories. She leaned across the table to pour wine for her sister's husband. She acted like she was single, floating around the table, glowing. And me? I just sat there, nodding along, clenching my jaw so hard it ached. On the drive home, she was all sweet again, holding my hand, talking about taking a weekend trip together, acting like tonight hadn't just been a Tower ad for how bored she was with me. "You okay?" she asked, squeezing my fingers lightly. I stared at the road ahead. "Yeah," I said. "Just tired." She smiled and kissed the back of my hand. "Love you," she said softly. I nodded, but in my head, I was still hearing her voice in the kitchen. "Thanks, Matt." The first crack in the marriage wasn't a fight. It wasn't a blowout. It was her saying the wrong name over a dirty plate and pretending it didn't mean anything. And me? I realized something driving home that night. It's never the big things that ruin a marriage. It's the tiny moments that feel off. The way her smile slides too fast. The way her eyes flicker when you ask simple questions. The way she grabs your hand like she's trying to make up for something she doesn't want to say out loud. I didn't plan on looking for proof. I didn't plan anything at all. But life has a way of handing you the truth whether you want it or not. And when it finally showed up, it was uglier than I ever expected. You tell yourself not to dig. You tell yourself it's better not to know. That maybe it's just work stress. Maybe it's a rough patch. Maybe if you act normal, things will fix themselves. I tried. For almost 3 weeks after she called me Matt, I tried. I played the good husband. I cooked dinner on Thursdays like always. I rubbed her feet when she fell asleep on the couch. I kissed her goodnight even when she turned her head just a little too fast. And every night, lying awake in that bed we picked out together, I wondered, who the hell is Matt? It's funny how once suspicion creeps in, you start seeing everything different. Like the way she always put her phone on silent now. Or the way she'd jump a little when I walked into a room too fast. Or how she suddenly had work dinners twice a week, always last minute, always just her and a couple clients. No names. No details. Just a quick kiss on the cheek and gone. The breaking point came on a Saturday morning. I was fixing the broken hinge on the guest room door when I heard her phone buzz on the kitchen counter. She was upstairs folding laundry. I didn't even think about it. I wiped my hands on my jeans and walked over. Screen lit up with a text. No name. Just an initial, M. M. Still thinking about last night. Can't wait to see you again. I stared at it. Felt the blood rush to my ears, so loud it drowned out the world. I didn't touch the phone. Didn't scroll. Didn't snoop. Just stood there staring at it until the screen went dark again. When she came back downstairs, I was already back at the door, pretending to mess with the hinge. "Coffee?" she asked cheerfully. "Sure," I said, without looking up. She moved around the kitchen like nothing had happened, singing softly under her breath. pouring coffee, scrolling through her phone, maybe reading that text again. I watched her out of the corner of my eye. The woman I'd built a life with. The woman who said, "I love you" every night out of habit. And I realized something that hit harder than any punch. It wasn't the betrayal that broke me. It was the ease. How effortlessly she lied. How smoothly she slid into this new double life, smiling at me over coffee like we were still us. That night, I decided to get answers. Not from her. From the world around her. I started with small things. Casual questions. How's work been lately? Who are you meeting for dinner tomorrow? Anyone from the office I know? Every time she answered fast. Too fast. Like she'd rehearsed. "Oh, just the girls," she said once, tucking her hair behind her ear like she always did when she lied. "Team meeting," she said another night, tapping her fingers nervously against the steering wheel. I kept a straight face. Nodded. Let her think I was buying it. But inside, I was taking notes. A week later, I swung by her office on a whim. Brought her a sandwich, thinking maybe if I surprised her, we could sit down, talk, feel normal again. The receptionist looked confused when I asked for Kelly. "She's not in today," she said brightly. Took a personal day. I stood there, holding that stupid sandwich, feeling like an idiot. "Right?" I said. Must have forgotten. I walked back to my truck and sat there for a long time. The sandwich sat on the passenger seat, untouched. At some point, I drove home. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared out the windshield and thought, "You're losing her. And she's not even trying to hide it anymore." That night, she came home buzzing with fake energy. "Crazy day," she said, dropping her purse by the door. "Office drama. You wouldn't believe it." I sat at the kitchen table, sipping a beer. "Yeah?" I asked, keeping my voice casual. She launched into some story about a client yelling about missed deadlines. I nodded at all the right spots. Smiled when she smiled. Pretended I didn't know she hadn't been anywhere near that office today. Pretended I wasn't sitting there listening to the woman I loved lie straight to my face without blinking. I slept on the couch that night. Not because we fought. Because I couldn't stand the feel of her next to me. Because every time I closed my eyes, all I could see was that text. Still thinking about last night. The final confirmation came from the last place I expected, her sister. 2 Sundays later, we went to family lunch, the kind we used to love. Kelly was all smiles, laughing too loud at stupid jokes, clinging to me like we were high school sweethearts again. Afterward, I was helping her sister, Jenna, bring dishes inside when she asked, casual as hell. "So, Kelly told you about the work conference next month, right?" I frowned. "No." "What conference?" Jenna blinked. "The one in Tampa? She said you were fine with it. Couple nights away, all expenses paid." My mouth went dry. "Oh," I said. "Yeah, right. Forgot." Jenna laughed and waved it off. "Probably slipped your mind. Anyway, she's excited. Should be fun. Her and Matt are basically running the whole thing, so it'll be a blast for her." Matt. That name again. Slicing through me like a knife. On the drive home, she talked about nothing. Traffic. Weather. How we needed new curtains. I stared out the window, knuckles white on the door handle. "Hey," she said at one point, playful. "You're awful quiet today." I turned to her. Forced a smile. "Just tired," I said. Same lie she gave me every night. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat outside on the porch, watching the sky bleed into black. I lit a cigarette, even though I hadn't smoked in years. And I thought about the man she smiled at when I wasn't around. The man she joked with, confided in, maybe whispered to in hotel beds paid for by our joint account. I thought about every time I rubbed her feet, carried her groceries, stood in the cold to fill her gas tank so she didn't have to. I thought about the years I gave her without thinking twice, and how little it all meant the second someone else made her feel shiny and new again. Somewhere around 2 a.m., I made a decision. I wasn't going to catch her. I wasn't going to beg her. I wasn't even going to yell. No, I was going to let her hang herself with her own lies. And when the time was right, when she least expected it, I was going to make damn sure she remembered what it feels like to lose everything she took for granted. Because I loved her. God help me, I did. But a man can only get slapped in the face so many times before he stops reaching out his hand. I didn't tell her I knew. Not that night. Not the next one. Not the one after that. We moved through the house like strangers pretending to be a couple. Morning coffee. Have a good day, kisses that didn't land right. Dinners where the only sounds were forks scraping against plates. Sometimes she'd try. Sit a little closer on the couch. touch my arm and ask, "Are you okay?" And every time, I lied. Yeah, just tired. If she heard how dead my voice sounded, she never said. Maybe she didn't want to hear it. Maybe she didn't care. The thing about knowing your wife is cheating on you is this. It's not the act that crushes you. It's the ordinary moments afterward. It's watching her laugh at a dumb commercial, knowing she laughed that same way for him. It's the way she slips into bed after a shower, smelling like coconut shampoo, and you wonder if she smelled that way for him too. It's brushing your teeth together in the mirror and seeing her smile at her own reflection, like there's nothing rotting underneath it all. It's being haunted by every casual touch, every glance, every inside joke, wondering which parts are real and which ones she's just going through the motions on. It's death by 1,000 cuts. And every day, you bleed a little more. I tried to stay normal. Went to work. Answered emails. Paid bills. But I wasn't there. Not really. I was stuck somewhere between the life I thought I had and the lie I was living inside of. One afternoon, I stood in the grocery store for 15 minutes staring at a shelf of marinara sauces, trying to remember which one she liked, and realizing it didn't matter anymore. Because none of it, the dinners, the trips, the dumb little arguments over Netflix shows, none of it meant a damn thing if her heart was already somewhere else. Some nights I lay awake rehearsing what I'd say when I confronted her. Some nights I planned how I'd leave a fast, brutal, final. And some nights, I just sat outside on the back steps, smoking a cigarette down to the filter, trying to feel anything other than the hollow ache inside me. The worst part? I still loved her. I still wanted her. Even knowing what she was doing. Even knowing every smile was a lie. Love's a stubborn bastard that way. It doesn't shut off just because you find out the truth. It just sits there, inside your chest, rotting. One Thursday night, she came home late again. Said she was out with the girls. Still had her work badge clipped to her purse, a detail she never missed before. She kissed my head and went straight to the shower. And I sat there on the couch, staring at the front door she walked through, thinking, this is the last time. It wasn't anger. Not anymore. It was something colder. Something harder. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to smash things. I was going to end it. Not like a man begging to be understood, but like a man pulling the plug on a machine that's already dead. The next morning, I packed a small bag. Nothing dramatic. A few clothes. Toiletries. My dad's old hunting knife, not because I needed it, but because it was mine and I wasn't leaving it behind. She was still asleep when I zipped the bag closed. Still curled on her side, hair spilling over the pillow. Still beautiful in the way that ruins you if you stare too long. I stood there for a second, bag in hand, feeling every memory claw at my throat. The night she cried when I proposed. The way she used to trace circles on my back to help me fall asleep. The first time she said, "I love you," without me saying it first. All of it. All crashing into me at once. I wanted to wake her up. I wanted to shake her and scream. Why? Why wasn't I enough? But I didn't. Because somewhere deep down, I knew it wouldn't change a thing. Instead, I left a note on the kitchen table. Just 4 words. You made your choice. No signature. No goodbye. She'd know it was from me. She'd know exactly what I meant. I stayed with my brother Dan that weekend. Didn't tell him much at first. Just that I needed a place to crash. He didn't ask questions. Just tossed me a spare key and a beer and said, "Stay as long as you need." That first night, lying on his old pull-out couch, staring at the ceiling fan creaking overhead, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Not happiness. Not relief. Just the quiet space where pain used to live. Kelly called the next afternoon. I didn't answer. She called again that night. Then texted. "Where are you? Please talk to me. I'm scared." I stared at the screen until it dimmed. Didn't respond. Because fear was the currency she'd traded on for months, keeping me scared of losing her, scared of being wrong, scared of blowing things up. And I wasn't scared anymore. Sunday night, Dan found me on the porch, staring into the dark. "You ever gonna tell me what happened?" he asked. I took a sip of my beer, wiped my mouth. "She's been seeing someone," I said quietly. Dan didn't react much. Just nodded like he'd already guessed. "That why you're here?" he asked. I shook my head. "Nah. I'm here because I finally decided I'm not the kind of man who stays when he knows he's not loved." He clapped my shoulder once, firm. "Good," he said. "Damn good." And we sat there a long time after that, saying nothing. Because some things don't need words. Kelly kept texting. The next day. "Can we talk? Please. I'll explain everything." Then, "I love you. I miss you." Then, This isn't fair. You're overreacting. And finally, I made a mistake. One night. That's all it was. Lie after lie, crumbling into smaller, sadder pieces. I didn't block her. Not yet. I wanted her to sit with it. To feel it. To know that somewhere out there, there was a man who used to orbit his whole world around her, and now wouldn't even lift a finger to answer her calls. A week later, she sent the last text. If you ever loved me, please come home. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't love her, but because I finally loved myself more. That was the night I stopped being hers. Not because she gave me permission. Not because she apologized. Because I decided her betrayal didn't get to define me. Because I decided my story wasn't going to end with me clinging to a woman who treated me like a second option. And somewhere deep inside the wreckage she left behind, I felt the first small flicker of something that would one day grow into freedom. She showed up at Dan's place on a Wednesday night. I heard the knock first. Slow. Hesitant. Dan was out poker night. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I cracked the door, there she was. Kelly. Hair pulled back in a sloppy bun, sweatshirt hanging off one shoulder, face pale and wet from crying. She looked small. Can I come in? She asked, voice shaking. I didn't say anything for a second. Just stood there, blocking the doorway, letting her feel the weight of it. Finally, I stepped aside. She slipped past me without waiting for an answer, like she knew if she waited, I'd say no. Inside, she hovered awkwardly in the middle of the living room. Didn't sit. Didn't speak. Just twisted her hands together like a kid caught stealing. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed, heart hammering in my chest. The silence between us stretched so tight it hurt. Finally, she whispered. I'm sorry. I said nothing. She tried again, louder. I never meant to hurt you. I let out a short, humorless laugh. You didn't mean to fuck him either, right? She flinched like I hit her. Tears welled up fast, glittering under the cheap ceiling light. I swear, she said, stepping closer, it wasn't like that. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. I looked at her. Really looked. At the woman who used to be my home. At the stranger standing in front of me now. How long? I asked, voice low. She opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. I don't know, she said finally. It's complicated. I snorted. Simple question, Kelly. How long? She shook her head violently, wiping her nose on her sleeve. It wasn't serious. It's not like I love him. I stepped closer, until we were almost face to face. Answer the damn question. She broke. 6 months, she whispered. The words dropped between us like stones into a well. 6 fucking months. I stepped back, let out a long breath I didn't even realize I was holding. 6 months. While I fixed the sink she broke. While I picked up her mom from surgery. While I paid off her stupid credit card debt without a word. 6 months. I felt sick. She reached for me, tears streaming now. I made a mistake, she sobbed. I was lonely. You were so distant. Always working, always tired. I just needed. I cut her off with a sharp wave of my hand. You needed what? Attention? Validation? She nodded miserably. I shook my head, laughing bitterly. I gave you everything, I said, voice shaking with rage. You think I worked those overtime shifts for fun? You think I missed birthdays and anniversaries because I didn't care? She tried to grab my arm. I didn't mean to fall into it, she pleaded. It just happened. One night. Then another. And then you lied, I said coldly. She cried harder. I watched her fall apart in front of me and felt nothing. No pity. No forgiveness. Just the cold satisfaction of finally seeing the truth with no makeup on. I ended it, she said suddenly, desperate. I swear. It's over. I stared at her. You ended it because you wanted to? I asked quietly. Or because you got caught? She froze. That was the real answer. She didn't leave him. She just lost the ability to hide him. I walked to the window, stared out into the night. What did he have that I didn't? I asked after a while. She hesitated. Younger, she said finally, voice small. Exciting. I laughed. An ugly, broken sound. So you threw away a marriage for a thrill? She ran both hands through her hair, sobbing harder. I didn't want to lose you, she choked out. I love you. I swear to God I love you. No, I said, turning to face her. You love what I gave you. Stability. Comfort. A place to land when the fantasy wore off. Not me. Never me. She stepped closer again. I can fix this, she begged. I'll do anything. Therapy. Quitting my job. Blocking him. Anything. I stared at her. At the wreck of the life we built. at the woman still trying to crawl back into the house she burned down. And I knew, no matter how much I loved her, no matter how much history we had, I couldn't live with the sound of her lies echoing in my head for the rest of my life. You made your choice, I said quietly. You don't come back from that. She dropped to her knees in front of me, clutching my jeans like a child. Please, she sobbed. Please, please, don't leave me. I'll be better. I'll be anything you need. I looked down at her, felt nothing but sadness for the boy I used to be, the one who would have believed this was love. I peeled her hands off me, gently, stepped back, and said the only thing I could. I already left. She collapsed forward, forehead pressed to the carpet, crying so hard her whole body shook. I walked to the door, opened it, paused, and without looking back, said, I hope he was worth it. Then I stepped into the night, and didn't look back. Not once. I didn't hear from her for 3 days after that night. No calls, no texts. The silence was almost louder than the begging. I spent those days staying busy. Work, long drives, hitting the gym for the first time in months. Anything to drown out the part of me that still flinched every time the phone buzzed. On the 4th day, she emailed me. A long, rambling thing full of apologies and half-truths. She talked about therapy, about rebuilding, about wanting to find our way back. She used words like healing and forgiveness, like they were magic spells that could erase what she did. And at the end, she wrote, You're my soulmate. Please don't throw us away over one mistake. I read the whole thing once, closed my laptop, and didn't respond, because by then, I wasn't interested in fixing anything. I was interested in finishing it. I hired a lawyer the next day, a real bulldog, the kind Dan recommended with a grin and a slap on the back. Trust me, he said. You want a guy who knows how to burn bridges without setting himself on fire. I met with him that afternoon, told him everything. The affair, the lies, the months of humiliation. He nodded through it all, tapping his pen on a legal pad. You got a prenup? He asked. I shook my head. But, I said, the house is in my name. Bought it before we got married. He smiled. Good. That's leverage. We drew up the papers that night. Clean. Cold. Final. I had them served at her work. Middle of the day. In front of her coworkers. In front of Matt, if he was lucky enough to be there. The server said she cried when she signed for them. I didn't ask for more details. Didn't need them. I already knew what those tears meant. Not regret. Not love. Just loss. The loss of the safety net she thought would always be there, no matter how many times she pissed on it. That night, she called. 6 times. I didn't answer. Finally, she sent a text. I can't believe you would humiliate me like that. I stared at it, feeling nothing. Not guilt. Not shame. Just the quiet, clean satisfaction of knowing she was feeling a fraction of what she'd put me through. The next few weeks were a blur of paperwork and logistics. Dividing up the little junk that didn't matter. Arguing over nothing through emails and lawyers. She tried a few times to get sentimental. Can we at least meet for coffee? Talk this through. I miss my best friend. I miss you. Each time, I ignored her. Because once trust is dead, once love rots from the inside out, there's nothing left to save. Only the clean break left to make. The day we finalized the divorce, it rained. Hard. Sheets of water pounding the courthouse steps as I walked up them. I saw her waiting inside. Tight black dress. Umbrella dripping on the floor. Eyes rimmed red, but makeup perfect. She looked beautiful. She looked broken. For a second, just a second, my chest twisted. The ghost of the man I used to be wanted to run to her. Wipe her tears. Pretend we could rebuild. But then I remembered her saying his name in her sleep one night. Not mine. His. And whatever softness was left inside me hardened into steel. We didn't speak during the hearing. Just sat there, side by side, while the judge rattled off the terms. No alimony. No house. No shared debt. She got her car, her clothes, her bank account. I kept everything else. Because in the end, you don't get to destroy someone's heart and still keep their home. Not in this story. Not in my life. When it was over, she followed me out into the rain. Please, she called after me, voice breaking. Please just, talk to me. I stopped under the awning. Turned to her. She looked so small standing there, rain flattening her hair to her skull, makeup streaking down her cheeks. I loved you, she whispered. I know, I said. And I meant it. But love isn't enough when loyalty's dead. She took a step closer. I never stopped, she said, tears streaming now. Even when I messed up. Even when I was with him. I held up a hand. Don't, I said quietly. Don't make it worse. Because there's only so much a man can hear before the words stop sounding like anything at all. I turned away, walked into the rain without an umbrella, without her, without the weight of lies and broken promises hanging around my neck. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't running toward anything. I was just free. I moved into a small apartment a week later. Nothing fancy. 2 rooms. Shitty view of a gas station. Paper-thin walls. But it was mine. No ghosts in the corners. No hidden betrayals between the sheets. Just me. Starting over. Sometimes people ask if I regret it. If I miss her. And the truth is, yeah, sometimes I do. I miss the woman I thought she was. I miss the life I thought we had. But I don't miss walking on eggshells. I don't miss wondering if I'm enough. I don't miss living with a woman who could kiss me goodnight and then text another man after I fell asleep. Love without trust isn't love. It's a slow death. And I chose to live instead. 6 months after the divorce, I heard through the grapevine that Matt moved on. New girl. New life. Dropped Kelly like yesterday's news. Some part of me wanted to feel smug about that. Wanted to revel in her heartbreak. But honestly, I didn't care. Because by then, I'd already built something better. Not with another woman. Not with some rebound. With myself. Piece by broken piece. Every scar she gave me, I wore it like armor now. Every sleepless night, built into the foundation of the man I was becoming. And every lie she told, a lesson burned into my skin so deep. I'd never forget it again. The last text she ever sent me came on a cold January night. I miss you. Always will. I didn't respond. Just deleted it. And finally, I let her go.